Again, hi. I guess that is, it's a bit early for all of us. So thank you for joining, because I think that the best thing you could do right now is sleeping at the hotel instead of seeing our ugly faces. So thank you a lot. My name is Ramiro Pareja, and I am principal security analyst, consultant, and I active. My colleague.
Hi, I'm Yashin. I'm a security consultant at Xebia. And Hi, I'm Yashin. I'm a security consultant at Xebia. And before we continue, I baked some cookies. So if you want to grab them later, it's at that desk.
He woke up at 7 to make the cookies. Yeah, okay. So you all know now that automotive is a very hot topic in security. So it's strange not to see news almost every month, new news about a new hack on a car or some kind of immobilizer, key fob, something like that. So it's almost every month we have something like this in the news, right? So like 2 years or maybe 3 years ago, Yashin and I, we were bored with the pandemic. And then we decided to start a new research on automotive. And then we took a look at what was already there. And we noticed that most of the researchers were focusing on hacking cars, normally expensive cars, not Dacia or Peugeot. It was always Tesla and BMW, Mercedes. I guess that we are very bad paid, so we have to make money somehow. And we noticed also that the usual attack vectors are infotainments. In the last year, there is also a lot of interest in remote control key fobs, right? But mostly infotainments is the usual attack vector. And as a consequence, most of the efforts we see that is put by the vendors to protect these devices is also in infotainments, have sense, right? So we were wondering, okay, maybe, just maybe, the industry is overlooking other aspects of the security of the ecosystem, automotive ecosystem, because it's not just cars. There are more things, right? There are servers, there are devices, applications. So maybe they are overlooking this security. So we started this research, 2020, I think it was, with the focus on automotive embedded devices that were permanently connected to internet, not infotainments. That was totally discarded. And one of the requirements was that it had to be devices that had potential to make a massive scalable attacks, right? What do we mean with scalable attacks? Okay, so it has to be attacks that can be executed remotely, that can affect the entire fleet of the entire fleet of the vehicles, with zero marginal effort or cost. That is, it requires significant effort to develop the attack, but after you develop the attack, you can execute in all the vehicles of the fleet with zero cost, with almost no any effort put there. And that could have big impact, right? So, yeah, we started in 2020, I think at the end of 2020, more or less. It was a side project, free time. We still, today are working on this project, free time. We have any. Up to the date, we have like 18 devices, more or less, hack. I think that almost every device we look at had a very high impact vulnerabilities there that could be attacked remotely. I think almost every device. And those devices were all them used for fleet control, right? So those allows us to do a massive scalable attack, which was our goal. But the interesting thing is that here we were not trying to do fancy attacks. So you see some of these automotive attacks are super complex. They attack the infotainment. From there, they jump to the gateway. From there, they jump to another ECU. No, this was very simple attacks. We get the box. We try to hack in a couple of weeks. If we don't get anything, next. Everything was very simple. Was relatively simple attacks. Low-hanging fruits. Nothing complex. And almost every device was hacked in a couple of weeks. Okay. In the past, because we already found many of these issues, in the past we have been presenting some of these issues in different congresses, like SCAR Europe 2022, ASRG SOS in 2023. So I'm not going to repeat those presentations because you can go internet, find the slides and the videos there. But just to make a very short introduction of some of these devices we talked in the past, We talk about dongles, OBD2 dongles. OBD2 is a diagnosis port that is under the wheel of your car. There is a small connection port there, which is used for diagnosis. They sell some dongles that you connect there, and you can provide some smart, or some intelligence, smart functions to your car by putting this dongle. We chose this one, which is from a mobile phone company, very famous in Latin America and Europe. Almost every mobile provider nowadays, they have something like this, like Vodafone, AT&T has something like similar. So this is the dongle you put into your car, and then it provides GPS tracking, anti-theft functionalities, crash detection. So if you have an accident, you will just immediately call the emergency services. You pay a small fee, and then you have this device that you connect to your car, and your car suddenly has a connection to internet for all these functionalities. So we found here a couple of vulnerabilities. There were the back ports open. There were buffer overflows in a web interface that allows prime control of the target. The cryptography used to authenticate the device was broken, so you could impersonate the device, and you could impersonate also the server. So it was interesting. We talk also about 5G modems used in automotive. So we talk about this Kectel RM500. So this is a small 5G module, PCI module that you can find in some cars. It's used in automotive and IoT. And we found command injecting in the AT interface. We found some insecure communications for the OTA upgrade, firmware upgrade. In this case, this is, I think, the only case that we were not able to launch a massive scale attack. We have some remote attacks, but it was not easy to scale them massively. So this was the less interesting findings we had. We also talk about MQTT servers. In this case, we talk about misconfigured servers. So people install at their homes MQTT brokers. Normally, it's part of the home automation system. Where they connect the vehicle to this server, they don't protect the server, so basically they're exposing their vehicles, or, we found vehicles, we found ODB dongles, we found electrical cars, chargers, all those exposed to internet, vulnerable because somebody was misconfiguring the MQTT. So, we were talking about this in previous presentations. We are going to talk also about MQTT today, later. But yeah, if you are interested in all these topics, you can go back to our previous presentations and take a look at that. Today, we are going to talk about two specific systems. It's two T-boxes, or telemetric units. Why we chose this? Because this represents the worst case scenario that can happen in automotive security. So these devices allow us to have, they have vulnerabilities that affect a high number of vehicles. We counted like 200,000. They have very impacted vulnerabilities that allow even runtime control of those vehicles. And it required low to middle effort to find these vulnerabilities. So it was not nothing crazy at all. You will see. It was pretty easy, actually. And then very, very, very low effort to exploit those vulnerabilities after you know, right? And the worst thing of all is that there was zero response from the vendors. We have been 2 years trying to fix these issues. No way. So these are two telematic boxes used for fleet control. What is a telematic box? Also called telemetric box or T-box or TCU. They have different names depending on the vendor. So those are ECUs, electronic controllers, which are put into the car to get some metrics about the vehicle and send them to the server, to the backend. They have multiple uses. Now, maybe you heard about V2X, vehicle to vehicle, vehicle to infrastructure. Maybe you heard about these words. But the most common use is about vehicle tracking. So you can track the cars, so you can track, your vehicles. Remote diagnosis. And they also use a lot for insurances now are using these kind of devices. So they know how well you drive and they can make a discount on your insurance. Yeah. Actually, most of the modern cars, if you buy a car nowadays or for the last 3-4 years, probably it's connected to internet and you have an application in the phone, right? So it's connected to internet through this T-box, so through this TCU. So probably your car have one right now. Okay, so the first device is this HopeChart HQT401. This is a Chinese vendor. And this is a T-box that has It's Android box with 4G, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, all kind of connectivity. Is used for fleet control. Allows location, GPS location of the car where this is installed. It allows remote diagnosis. If there is a problem with the engine, whatever, you can immediately know. The backend will be receiving the notification there is some problem in the vehicle. Allows, you can do some telemetry, like getting some data, like, okay, what is the consumption of the vehicle, how much gas is in the tank. And finally, it allows a remote control of the vehicle by injecting canned traffic. I will talk about this later because it's an interesting feature. Who is using this T-box? Because it's a Chinese vendor. Who is using this? Okay. This is currently factory installed in Sunny. Maybe most of you don't know what is Sunny because I guess that you don't come from this industry. Sunny is one of the leader of heavy vehicle manufacturing. They are the third biggest manufacturer of heavy or industrial vehicles in the world. And since 2020, they have the first position in excavators and some other heavy machines. So they sell more than 100,000 excavators every year, and I don't know in total how many vehicles they sell every year. So they are huge. They are really huge. So probably you never notice, but if you go out, just try to spot this Sunny in all these excavators. You probably will see it a lot. Okay, so they are using these T-boxes. And who else is using this? Okay, so the vendor sell these T-boxes to whoever wants to do some kind of fleet management. So you can contact them and you can add these T-boxes. You can ask for these T-boxes. They will just give to you. You install in your fleet, and then you can just manage your fleet remotely. So there might be other people that is using this. Actually, we will talk about that a bit later. So they sell this as their market, not to be installed during the manufacturing process of the vehicle, but later. Okay, so we bought one of these devices in Taobao, which is the Chinese AliExpress, and we just immediately disassembled, take a look at the PCB. It was based on a Kectel EC20 chipset, nothing fancy. And then pretty quickly we identify there was a connector with 4 pins, and then if you trace these pins, you find that it's going to the USB of the SOM of the Kectel module. So okay, this is a USB. So it's not possible they let the USB open, right? So you connect a cable, USB cable, connect to your computer. Oh God, ADB, right? So it's an Android, so there's an ADB there. Okay, no, it's not possible. ADB cell. Oh yeah, it's possible. Root control just in 5 minutes. Root control of the device. Of course, physical root control. That is the beginning, right? So now we have full control of the box just by using the ADB cell with root permissions. What else can we do? We have to now try to escalate this to a massive attack that we can do remotely, right? So first thing, we dump the firmware. If you have root access, it's very easy. DD to the SSD, well, to the flash. We get the firmware. We start to look at the firmware. We immediately see that there is no protections there. There is no binary stripping. There is no obfuscation, no encryption. It's pretty easy. It's like a CTF for beginners. So you start to do the typical reverse engineering on Linux embedded systems, right? So you look at the configuration files, the scripts that start the processes. You use the NetStat to see the communications with other servers. And then pretty quickly we identify a couple of binaries in the file system, which is MQTT proxy and plug MQTT Sunny Crane. So this, by the way, by the time we bought this T-box, we were just exploring a bit. We didn't know this was used by Sunny. So we just bought the T-box. We went to Taobao, T-box, and then we bought a couple of units, and we didn't know what was this for. So when we saw, okay, Crane, Sunny, oh, this seems interesting. This indicates that maybe it's MQTT communications. Okay, so we get this, we took a bit farther to this. We used Hydra to reverse these binaries. I will talk about this in the next slide. So they are using MQTT to communicate with the backend. So you know MQTT, I guess, it's a protocol used for IoT devices, where there is a server called broker, there is the clients, and they post messages to the topics. You probably know this, so otherwise you will not be here. we found the connection to the MQTT, the configuration of the MQTT client in a file. So we very quickly identify what is the IP, what is the port. And, oh Jesus, there is no authentication, there is no password, there is nothing. So it cannot be, yeah. So we download this application, MQTT Explorer. I know you heard about this application. We use this application to connect to this server, and bam. We immediately see this. You see this here at the right? We immediately see these topics. And it's pretty clear what is this doing, right? Scan traffic, status is giving GPS location, trouble is giving diagnosis. Yeah, so you can see the task is for LTA. So you are immediately seeing all the traffic that all the devices, all the vehicles of this fleet are sending to this backend. No authentication, no encryption, nothing. It's all there. By the way, these are the main topics. For example, CAM, you see that they say that there is 4,000 topics. Each topic is a vehicle there. So this is after 5 minutes, the traffic you get. There are multiple servers. Each fleet have their own server. We identify several servers by just using some tools. This specific one has like around 5,000 vehicles connected to it. Okay, so we could see all the traffic of all the vehicles. Funny thing, the vehicles, when they are sending the messages, they are identifying themselves by the ICC ID, which is kind of serial number of the SIM cards, because these are 4G modules. They have a SIM card, so the ICC ID of the SIM card is like a identification for the backend, right? And funny thing is, because there is no authentication, the service is misconfigured. We found out that you could post any message in any topic. So that means that you could impersonate any vehicle, and you could impersonate the backend. So we could pretend to be any car in the fleet and send a message like, okay, I crashed. Or we could just send a message from the backend, pretending, I don't know, just do something to the car, tell the car to do something. This was pretty bad. So, okay, with this information, after taking a look at this, what can we do? Okay, the MQTT server was accessible, but all the information was sent in binary. It was not plain text, so you could not just see what is going on. You just see a lot of random characters. You don't know what is this, but we have the binaries, so we reverse engineering the binaries, and we understood the protocol that is using for communications. And after understanding this protocol, we found out what is going on. So cars, in this case, are not cars; these are cranes and trucks. So no cars, just cranes and trucks. They are sending the GPS location every few seconds. They are sending the GPS location. So metrics like how much gas I have left, what is the speed of the vehicle, what is the RPM, the revolution per minute of the engine. This kind of information is every seconds updated. And from time to time, it sends some messages with diagnostics codes, and sometimes you see some CAM traffic. I will speak about this later. So we can sniff all this information and see what is going on, and we can spoof. We can just make our own messages pretending to be cars or the server. So we just make this Python application. We are going to do a live demo, so if it's possible. So to show you what kind of things we can do. That's not the live one. Okay, so this server is controlling a fleet in China. Okay, it's run already? Yeah. Okay, so now it's waiting some time until they start to receive the first messages from the cars. I don't know how to use the computer, man. Now we start to see something. Okay, so we go back. These are different vehicles in China. This is messages we are getting right now, live. This is just live now. If I press here, I can start to... How is this? Okay, please do. I don't... So we can zoom in, and then we can see different vehicles. So for each of them, we can, for example, in this application, we can see, okay, the ACC ID, which is the serial number, how many kilometers in the odometer. Okay, let's go here, for example, 19. What is wrong with your computer? Okay, for example, here, we can see time level, how many hours have been the engine running, the speed. I don't know what we were not able to understand this number. It says that it's the speed. I don't remember why we know this number is the speed, but it's in some kind of metric we don't understand. Okay, so can we go back to? Yeah. Oh, no. Damn. Okay, so we can spoof, we can locate, we can find where is all this fleet located, we can get some metrics. This is not too much. This is bad, but not terrible, right? So what else can we do? So it happens that when you go to the documentation of this, to the web vendor, to the web of the vendor, you find that this device has a functionality, which is, they sell it, it's a functionality that allows you to inject traffic into the vehicle, CAN traffic into the vehicle. So the server sends a CAN packet. This CAN packet is received by the T-Box, and they put into the CAN bus. What is this for? So they sell this for unlocking, locking, and starting the engine remotely. So maybe you have experienced this. If you have seen one of these car sharing applications, that you use your phone to unlock a car and start the car so you can rent for a couple of hours. They are using something like this. So there is a remote server that is sending some message to the car to start an engine and to unlock, right? So this is what they use this feature for. So the funny thing is that because we can spoof the server, the messages from the server, we can inject any traffic in the vehicle we want. Okay, so in theory, it could be possible to, for example, stop the car in the middle of the highway. In theory. I say in theory because we don't know how this device is connected to the CAN buses. The device has 2 CAN buses. It's up to the installer, to the manufacturer to connect to different CAN buses. A car has different CAN buses. Some are critical, some are not. So we don't know where it's connected. So, but in theory, it could be possible to stop the car remotely. Also, in theory, we could be able to get random control of this vehicle, this device, because there is a command which is a OTA firmware update. The command includes some URL. The URL gets, the T-Box gets the firmware from the URL, does not authenticate the firmware in any way. So we could just send a URL with a malicious firmware. We didn't test neither of these 2 vulnerabilities. So maybe for this one, the OTA firmware update, there is some kind of check the boot time, bootloader, something like that prevents this to happen, but we don't know. But yeah. Okay, so this is pretty bad. We try to contact the vendor. We found this issue in the second quarter of 2021. A few months later, we tried to contact the vendor. They ignore us. A few months later, we try again. They ignore us. A few months later, we call them to the offices. We talked with somebody, passed the message. They told us, yeah, they will call you back. They never did. 1 year ago, we contacted ASRG, which is a CNA for automotive. We told them, okay, can you please deal with this? They were ignored. Exactly 1 year ago, finally, a contact of ASRG in China, they just managed to talk with these guys. And they say, you are right. This is a problem. It's affecting 60,000 vehicles. This is what Sunny said. We will fix this. And finally, in June of this year, we got a CVE for this. And in August, we try again this vulnerability, and we found that it's still there. Actually, you just saw it's still there. So we contact the vendor. Hey, what is going on? No, it's fixed. No, it's not fixed. And they just stopped to answer. We have been doing a spam campaign in LinkedIn, trying to contact absolutely everybody in Sunny and HopeChart to fix this issue. Nobody replied. So we just gave up. This vulnerability is still there for already 2 years since we reported first time. And it will be there until something terrible happens, like some kind of malware, getting control of the feed, something like that. By the way, if you go to the website of HopeChart, the manufacturer of the ECU, there is this, which is all the partners they have. So Sunny, we know this, they use this product. We got some messages that Scania probably was using this product too. I guess that maybe these other vendors, which are mostly Chinese vendors, they are also using this T-Box. So maybe there are more than 60,000 devices affected.
So we touched a bit about MQTT, and we started seeing a lot of vehicles and IoT devices using MQTT. So when we hacked this T-Box via MQTT, it led to an interesting question. Are there more misconfigured services like this out there? And then the question that follows it would be, can we find these services without knowing of their existence? And then, can we hack them remotely? Multiple follow-up questions, but as we found out, it's not too hard. So I'm not going to explain showdown and census to you. I think most of you know it, but if you don't, it's just like Google for devices. We used showdown and census to find open MQTT servers, and then we narrowed it down to automotive specific terms. So we also looked at Kafka, RabbitMQ, and Elasticsearch instances, mainly queue-based systems that devices would use as a backend. So the main thing that we did was, in case of HopeChart, we took the hardware, we extracted the firmware, we reverse engineered the firmware, found the MQTT server, and then exploited it based on what we found. But can you do that in reverse? Can you find an MQTT server, figure out the protocol based on what you see there, and then create an exploit without ever seeing the device? This is not new. There are prior articles, there are people who have done this before, just finding open MQTT servers and then reporting it. We were a bit spoiled for choice when we did this, as in we found things we are not looking for. I know it's a surprise to most people in the audience, but there are unsecured things on the internet. We found things like oil rigs, ship data, license plate readers, some things I looked at the topics and realized I don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. Disclosure is still ongoing for all of them, and we do see a recurring theme that, yeah, if you have an MQTT server, you also probably don't have security at domain.com. We did find some things more interesting than others. So, the general MQTT recon approach, as Ramiro mentioned, is to use like GUI tools initially just to case out the target to see if there's something interesting. We created a dumping script, then we looked at the output of it. So we did some basic statistical analysis to figure out if this is interesting to us. Sometimes we run it overnight. Sometimes we run it at different times of the day, mainly because, yeah, these servers are all over the world. Sometimes it's more active at 2 a.m. Netherlands time, for example. Is the data changing? Is the data being retained at the server level? These are all things that went through our mind while we were looking at the data coming from these servers. Moving forward, you'll see quite a bit of redactions compared to the previous slides. This is because some of these things are actively exploitable, and we'll explain at the end why we redacted and how our decision to do that was not taken lightly. So we found one server initially, which was an unauthenticated MQTT server, and it seemed to contain a lot of plain text data. So as Ramiro mentioned, for HopeChart, it was binary data, and we had to reverse engineer quite a bit of it to figure out exactly what was happening. But for this server, it was all plain text data, and there seemed to be a lot of diagnostic information about videos being played, CPU, storage, RAM information. It seems to be an embedded device. And some sort of request and response scheme. One thing to keep in mind is that we had no idea who this belonged to or what sort of a service this was. So we can call it company F. F stands for security. So this is a redacted and changed version of what we found. So you can see, I'm not sure if you can see it from the screen, but essentially you have telemetry under the ICC ID. And then you have information such as requests, which you'll see later. So everything seems to be under this Chiron topic. Again, this is a placeholder name, because if we give you the subtopic name, you can find it in Showdown with one search. This Chiron topic had subtopics which were numeric values. And each numeric value had subtopics that had diagnostic information, some sort of command, request, and response schemes. And once again, there's the ICC ID of the SIM. This seems to be a common theme across embedded devices because, yeah, if you need unique identifiers, you could either use the MAC address or the ICC ID of the SIM. Diagnostic information included location data, speed, battery percentage, etc. So our assumption was obviously a fleet management system. When we visualized the data, I ran this yesterday, and this was in 1 hour and from one server. They have multiple servers. So you can see that this is clearly not one or two devices. I think within an hour or two, we get close to 2,000, and the highest we saw from one server was 4,000. We'll see the exact numbers later from the developer side. And then we tried to find the owner. So reverse DNS gave us some domain names. We chased down those domain names. We found another MQTT server within the same domain name. Who is and the web service running on the www subdomain gave us enough context, and we figured out who the vendor was. So it was confirmed that Company F actually does provide a fleet management service. They also provide devices to other services to track their vehicles. So they not only provide a device, they provide a white label service for other fleet management systems to just use it. This was very well documented online. So for integration purposes, they had absolutely great documentation. I wish more people would do this, so it makes our job easier. And this is the first time we saw the hardware. We have still not seen the hardware or touched the hardware. This is a screenshot from their website. The obvious question that comes to every hacker's mind when you have a system is, can you get root? So we have location data, which means we know where the device or vehicle is. Each subtopic has a command request response subtopic. And there was a token and ID parameter with each command that we saw. So what happens if we send a command to a subtopic? Does it get executed? Sometimes. What we did was we took the token from the previous request and sent it. It works sometimes, it doesn't work other times. What we assumed at that point was a token was an authentication token. So we tried to reverse engineer it, look at it a bit. But we still don't have the firmware. This is all purely on the MQTT service. So what we did was we considered buying the device. So it's around 600 euros. As mentioned, we are poor security researchers. We can't just throw 600 euros every time we want to hack something. Should we buy one, extract the firmware, and figure out the token scheme? But thankfully, one of the update requests was sent over MQTT, and we helpfully noted down the domain and downloaded the firmware. Then it was interesting to see what sort of commands were being sent. But then once we have the firmware, we reverse engineered it. It was straightforward. For those of you who have had some experience with firmware reverse engineering, you just use binwalk, which is an open source tool, extract the file system, and then just look through the different binaries. So we grepped for the MQTT binary and the subtopics we saw, and then we figured out this Chiron watcher binary seems interesting. So we dug a bit deeper into that. And then we figured out you don't actually need to send a token. You just send the command, and it gets executed. We just complicated it because the token aspect was used only for one command and was not a security sensitive thing. We did see some credentials. So we are hoping that that's for the future MQTT server, and hopefully they'll implement it soon, and hopefully they'll change it soon. But this is the Ghidra decompilation output of their system, of the Chiron Watcher one. We found some other interesting files. They had a really good password management system. So you might notice some of your passwords on the screen up there. And we just cracked the hash. We found quite a bit of interesting files. So we had RSA private key that's used for an SSH connection to a backend. We found, the Chiron user had some pseudo rights for certain commands. This becomes useful later. But there was also some reference to video capture information. Then again, can you get root? So we took one of the ID values and incremented it by 100 and then send it. And looks like we actually have code execution. And the ID value turned out to be the epoch in microseconds. So we just need to send the epoch value at that point, and then you get code execution in thousands of devices. We're still not root. So before we move on to the next one, let's see if the demo works. That's what I was afraid of. Yeah. Hang on. Jupyter Notebook is misbehaving. The demo gods are not kind. Yeah, it's okay. Let's just need to. Got it. Yeah, I have the X render up because you never know when you have to work with video output. Hang on. Okay. That seems to work. So, what I'm going to do is essentially run this, and if everything goes well, we should have a view similar to the Hope Chart one with vehicles popping up everywhere. And as mentioned, this is live. So we are directly connected to the server, and we are pulling data from there. But location data is nice, but do we have code execution? So what happens if I execute a command? That ICC-ID was available last I checked. So if it's still up, we should get a response. Yeah, well, that's not the command. It's the response from the previous one. So that is essentially a PWD command being executed on the device and being returned. So yeah, we have code execution and can execute any binary that's within the user bin npx. And you actually see some privilege escalation methods. So there is a command injection here that you can use to essentially escalate to root. We did not use it for obvious reasons because we don't have access to the devices and we don't know what sort of response it would be when we do it. We also got live video from some of these devices because these have video cameras connected to it. What other things do we have access to on the same device? So we have tire pressure management system, engine immobilization according to the vendor, canvas access, and you can even send audio message to the drivers if you want through the speakers that are connected. So obviously, these are critical findings the developers need to know immediately. No way they wouldn't patch ASAP, right? It's been 200 days. It's still unpatched, as you can see. We sent a ticket in, we tried to talk to them, we even called them. Our ticket was discarded. Our call was, they said, yeah, we'll take a look at the ticket, and other emails just went unanswered. We got involved with ASRG and CertCC for disclosure, and CertCC also tried to contact them. ASRG also tried to contact them. They just didn't get a response either. CertCC essentially, we got a message from CertCC yesterday, and we had told them that we are not going to disclose the name because anyone knowing the name can find the server and exploit it, but we will disclose after November 11th because if you don't, this is not going to get patched. Yeah, this was the timeline. Since you're a bit over time, we're just going to mention the main thing. We started on April 16th. As soon as we found it, we sent an email to the vendor, but yeah, we didn't get a response. By August 23rd, the ticket was discarded. And then, yeah, we involved ASRG on June 25th. CertCC was involved on September 21st. And as of today, as I mentioned, 200 days. So, summing up, for Sani, we had at least 60,000 vehicles affected, probably more vendors affected. Attackers can get telemetry data, including GPS. They can impersonate vehicles. They can read and inject CAN traffic. The requirements is that you need to buy one device, reverse engineer it, and then exploit the backend. For the undisclosed vendor, it's 125,000 devices based on the vendor's website. So their website actually says these are the devices that are connected. Attackers can get telemetry data, read and inject CAN traffic, runtime control of the ECU, live video streams, and the requirements is none. You should be able to use Shodan and be able to do CTF 100 level challenge. So yeah, you don't need access to the T-box. And that's our presentation. Thank you for sitting through, and sorry about the demo problems.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Let's try to ask one question from the audience, and then we'll go to the coffee break. We've got a question here.
Thank you for your presentation. First thing, this is the funniest shit I've ever seen. But second thing, have you investigated in the fact that maybe these vulnerabilities could have already been exploited in the wild? And have you noticed that, like you said, like spoof messenger, or you could inject CAN messages? If you have also noticed like injected CAN messages in the MQTT servers in the topics?
So we did notice ECU and CAN bus activity, but it appears to be what, at least in the second vendor, it appears to be what the developers intended. So we didn't see anything malicious, but also we're not a SOC team. Well, not the system on chip, but the other SOC. So we're not sure. We didn't do forensics, but based on what we saw, we didn't see any active exploitation attempts. But we do see a lot more ransomware attacks targeting fleet management systems, for example. So we don't know how long that'll last, and hopefully they patch before that.
Thanks, guys. Let's give another round of applause. And